Literally.
Don't switch eyes.
Hello, good morning. Okay, Facebook, welcome. We are live here this morning, and this is a very, very momentous occasion that we're about to embark on. For some of you, you may know me as well as you may not, so I'll just do a brief introduction. My name is Chrishna Bowe. I'm a mother of three, a wife, and just like you, just another woman here going through life and doing what she has to do to make it good. And I just wanted to say that you may have known me from the vlogs that I've done in the past, and you may have seen me more recently on ZNS, opening up about my personal struggle with my mental condition, which is anxiety and depression. And the response was so phenomenal, so amazing, that I felt compelled to really, really open this conversation, get this conversation started about emotional and mental wellness, because it's very prevalent. The comments, the private messages, it's just been overwhelming. I mean, even though I suspected that there were some of you out there going through some type of emotional or mental crisis, it was still nothing that I had ever imagined. And the Lord would not allow me to sit idly by and do nothing. And one of the problems, or one of the challenges that we face when you're going through some type of emotional or mental unwellness in your life, is the lack of resources here in Freeport. And you know, my mantra for any of you that have watched anything or have read the book that I've written, you know it's all about keeping it real. And I want us to keep it real and really address the root and all the different aspects of mental conditions and mental illnesses, because it's a very, very complex subject. My interview with ZNS, I think, was about 3-4 minutes, and that, I mean, I could not say much. I said what I could, but that is not even the tip of the iceberg as to the prevalence of mental unwellness among us, and how do we get through, and how do we even know we're going through. So, you know, on the heels of my Woman to Woman platform, which most of you know, like I say, I feel that this is God's way of asking me to sow into the lives of those of you that may be watching, and to help others, because, you know, no man is here just to help themselves. We have to be our brothers and sisters keepers, and we are mandated to help one another. And I feel that this experience and this condition that I am currently still in the midst of, even though that is the case, I think that in speaking to you, just even like I said from the response, it's clear that there are a lot of us going through this, and we need to help each other. So this is what we're going to refer to as our pilot show. It's called Real Talk. So Real Talk is going to be a weekly event. We are hoping that with the support of the community that we're able to keep doing this. So this is not something that we want to come with one time, but it's something that we want to do continuously, because mental health, mental challenges, mental wellness is an ongoing process. Now today on the show, I have two of my very, very beautiful sisters. First, I have with me Italia Duncanson. Italia Duncanson, she's a Nasuvian, right?
Yep.
But we all sisters in the Lord. And Italia is with us because guess what? Italia is also a survivor of anxiety and depression. She's a survivor. She's out.
Yes.
Unlike she is out, and she is here to share just a bit of her story, because we do not have a bunch of time, but we're looking to have Italia back with us. So Italia is a mother of two. She's married. She's been in the nail industry for over 20 years. She's now doing her own counseling and designing of women, and she also assists her and her husband share a photography business. So, you know, Italia is the regular busy bee, and what is most important is that she's an overcomer. So now we go to our second guest, which is another sister in the Lord, and this is Leonora Dames. She's very well known, so I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of y'all know this woman, because listen, she gets her way around Freeport. And then and Nora, as we affectionately call her, is also a survivor. She is a survivor. She has had her own experience with mental illness, and she's also going to share just a bit. And she's also an overcomer. So, you know, I am also an overcomer, but in the natural realm of things, I'm still going through a bit. But these two ladies are the ones that I have looked to several times to know that, listen, there is hope for you. If you're going through mental illness, any type of emotional crisis, there is hope for you. And that is why these ladies, my sisters in the Lord, are here with me today. They have really helped me walk through this. They continue to help me, and they are also overcomers. So I wanted you to see not just me, but the flip side of that. And today, what we're going to focus on, we realize it is very prevalent in today's society. The ZNS clip last we checked had 40,000 views in a week. That is crazy. But what it does say is that a lot of us are struggling. A lot of us need the information because it's such a, quote, taboo topic. It's never really discussed, but we're here to just put all that aside. We're here to open that conversation. We're here to throw that behind us, and we're here to discuss this openly because we know how crippling any type of mental crisis or condition can be to anyone's life, and we want freedom. So, with that said, today what we're going to look at, we're just starting, so we want to kind of start at the beginning. And one of the things I'm just going to quickly tell you, first of all, is there are many, many different types of mental illnesses or mental conditions. All of us are different. Our triggers or things that can cause us to have a mental condition can be different. Sometimes it's spiritual. Sometimes it can be a trauma that we may have experienced in our life. Sometimes it can actually even be physical. There are different reasons, but there are several mental conditions. We have the anxiety, and the anxiety even has a large umbrella because with the anxiety, pardon me, we have what we call generalized anxiety disorder. This is one of the things that I battle with. Then we have panic disorders. Then we have panic attacks. And there are a couple other things, but I'm just kind of skimming over. But that is all under anxiety. And then you have depression. And you can have clinical depression. You can have maybe just depression on its own. You can have something that's chronic. Then you have bipolar, which has gotten a lot of attention lately because we have their sister of ours in the community who recently passed and was a bipolar sufferer all of her life. And we have schizophrenia, which is another mental condition. So there's a lot. And then we have psychosis.
Yep.
And we have postpartum, like with depression, we have postpartum depression. Listen, it's a lot. And we intend to do our very best to try and cover as much of the information. But that's just a brief list of some of the more prevalent mental conditions or illnesses. And you notice that I keep using the word mental condition, mental illness, because there's actually, we're not doctors. I just want to put that disclaimer out there. We're not claiming to be doctors. We're just women, sisters who've experienced emotional crisis in our lives, and we just want to share. So I'm not discrediting doctors. I'm not saying that doctors don't have their place, because I firmly believe that. I myself have gone to a doctor, but I make the difference between mental illness and mental condition, because if you were to talk to a therapist or a psychiatrist or psychologist, a mental illness is something that they look at as more chronic, and like bipolar, schizophrenia, they're regarded as mental illnesses. But if you have, like in my case, they would look at me as more having a mental condition, because I've never really experienced anxiety or depression up until 2.5 years ago. I really was clueless. I didn't even know what it was. So my personal situation would be referred to more as a mental condition. And as you can see, I put on my makeup, hey, hey, I got up, I dress up, put on my glitter, eyeshadow, right?
Yes.
Beautiful.
Right? Because, you know, we got to keep
Fight
going,
it.
ladies. We got to fight
Fight
it.
it.
And, you know, it's not easy. I'm not by
No.
any means saying that it's easy, but you got to keep at it. And you got to know from the two women on the side of me that, look, it's not forever.
No.
This too shall pass.
Oh,
The Lord is not going to put anything on us that we cannot handle. And we just have to continue to be faithful as we go through.
Amen.
Okay? So, real talk.
Real talk.
Real talk.
Real talk.
Okay?
That's the introduction. It's real
Right.
talk. Okay.
Now, what does an unhealthy emotional state look like? And that is what we want to get at today. How do you know if you are actually experiencing an emotional crisis or a mental illness or a mental condition? Or how do you know maybe if you are going down that road? Because one of the reasons that we need to talk about it is because if you are aware and conscientious of your mental well-being, then you may actually be able to be more proactive
Yes.
and not have to be as reactive as some of us had to be.
Yes.
Because if you can recognize that, you know what,
Something's wrong.
Something's wrong.
right, I'm not in a good place, right? So this is what I need to do. So that is one of the reasons why today we're going to start off by how do you recognize if you're in an emotionally unhealthy state, or how do you recognize if a loved one, you know, a fellow friend, a sister, an aunt, a mother, a child, how do you recognize if they're in an unhealthy emotional state? And that's really the first step, really, to battling and conquering whatever mental condition you may be faced with. Now, there's some key things that I'm going to mention briefly, and then I'm going to turn the mic over to Italia first. And what we call her Tali, not being in school,
Tali,
right?
please,
We don't
Tali.
ever call you by your real name. We always say, May, so she's Tali. Right? So, okay, my producer's saying something, and I really can't read lips.
Yeah, Facebook people.
Yes.
Okay.
They online, they tune it in.
Oh, you're tuning in Facebook?
Yes,
Oh
we
my
are
goodness.
watching.
You know, I'm not
Yeah,
good at
I
multitasking. You know, so I will try to
Welcome,
respond
welcome.
once
Yeah, I
Tali
did it.
starts speaking.
Yeah.
But I just wanted you to quickly say to you a few things that can be red lights or warning signals that, you know what, you're going through something, or someone that you care about is going through something. And some of the things is isolation. You know, you notice that, okay, this person who was, before they were outgoing and they like to go, all of a sudden they're not going anywhere. Right? They're more, you know how we say it in Bohemian, they ducking you.
Yes.
Oh, let's go. No, I'm just going to
No,
stay
I'm
home.
fine.
They start isolating their family members. They start isolating their friends. Okay, you need to look deeper. Or if you're that person, you find that you just have no interest. Because one of the key things with depression is you just have no interest. You have no interest in life. You kind of lose your zest for living.
Yes.
And you're just there. So you tend to just stay inside. You tend to do the minimum. Or if you notice too that, you feel very stressed. You know, you can't sleep. Insomnia, you're up. You know, before you would have been a great sleeper, but now you're not, and you're up all the time. You're not getting enough rest. Or you notice that, you know, you're just feeling very high strung. You're snapping at the children all the time. You know, you're snapping at your husband all the time. You know, there's some things that are not right. And what we do a lot of times, because this happened to me, we kind of ignore it and keep going.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's where you make your mistake.
Yes.
Because you know you're not right in here, but you know you got kids to drop off, you got a job to go to, you got clothes to wash, you have a house to clean.
Yes.
So what you do is you say, hey, I'm just going to keep moving, and we kind of ignore or deny
All the signs.
that internally, you know you're not right. At one point, like I said, I got to the point where I was so distraught, I called a friend and I basically said, look, I don't know what's going on, but I feel like I'm losing my mind. And that was a breaking point for me where I knew something was not right. Something was really, really wrong. And I just had to start to figure out how do I identify and get through what is going on. So what I want to do is I'm going to start with Tali. And Tali's going to tell you, first of all, you know, Tali, when did it first start for you?
Hi, well, first of all, hello, Facebook. It's such a privilege and an honor. I'm just grateful to God for my space in the room to be able to share with my sister about this topic that's so prevalent that we sometimes just bypass, like Chrishna said, but it's real, and that's what we came here for. And everybody knows I don't know how to have a conversation unless I can be totally transparent.
Amen.
Now, my sister said she gave me a time frame. Now, any of y'all who know me, knowing that this is a task for me to keep this in this time frame that she gave me, but I will honor this time frame.
Yeah.
But I do want to talk about what I faced. Anxiety. Anxiety was something that I battled for 21, maybe 22 years. Anxiety that I didn't know at the time that it was anxiety. The only thing I knew was that one day this feeling came over me, this overwhelming feeling came over me. I was fearful and all I wanted to do was get up and run. But little did I know that this actually, and for me, Chrishna, situation was a little different. For me, it was panic attacks. Panic attacks was what I dealt with for 20 plus years.
Tali, when did it start?
It started, I think I was about 16, 17, but I remember as a young girl growing up, my father was an epileptic. Okay. And I remember the first day, I think I probably was about maybe 8 or 9, and I heard this heavy sound, this drop in the bathroom, and I was in the bedroom and I didn't know what it was. And when I went and I opened the door in the bathroom, there was my father on the floor having convulsions. He was having a fit. And I could remember the fear that came in me, the fear that I felt at that time being so young.
I know exactly.
But I remember feeling so fearful because I didn't understand what was going on with Dad. And so it started from then. So I found myself wherever I was after that day, being fearful of hearing another thump.
Yeah.
So everything that fell, everything that dropped, everything that moved, it was this jerk that I started to feel, and that started the panic attacks for me because what am I going to see? Yeah. And so from then, growing up as a teenager, it was driving sometimes in the car and feeling that a car coming somewhere and it's going to hit me. Fearful of dying, fearful of sickness. It just progressed and progressed and it progressed. And I still didn't know what I was dealing with, but I remember the first time that as a teenager or grown up that I had this panic attack, I remember just wanting to run from this thing that I felt because I felt this fear and I couldn't control what it was that I was feeling, and it was the worst thing in the world. And so that spiraled, and so what it was I thought I was having a heart attack. I thought I was going to die, so it was always, come take me to the hospital. Come take me to the hospital. Through the course of my life, it has been every week. My husband, in my marriage, 10 years, having to take me to the hospital every week. And there was where I really, really found out and learned more, because after hearing a lady, her name is Tiffany, from Bahamas Harvest, it was the first time I had heard about anxiety, someone that I could relate to, who was talking about this thing that I had felt for so long, and this was real.
Yes.
And that was what started my journey of trying to find out and get more knowledge of what anxiety really, really was.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
that's basically it in a nutshell.
You did good, girl. You did good.
I did. I kept in my time frame. Hey, there you go. There you go.
Tali's like me. We're talkers, you see? We're talkers.
Yeah.
But I just wanted her to explain. So you see where hers started? It started with her dad, and it started at a very young age.
Yes, it did.
And it continued, because Tali is You know, we're very, very mature women. We're all 40 plus in this
Yeah.
room.
Yes.
So she suffered for 21 years,
Yes.
but she's an overcomer.
Oh, yes.
That's what I love
Yes.
most,
Yes.
because for those of you who may be like me and still going through, I tell her all the time that they are my hope. And that's what I want us to transfer to
Amen.
you today. There is hope.
Yes, and I just wanted to say, I really wanted to say this, that if you're watching and this is something that you're dealing with, I want you to know that as of today, you're an overcomer as well.
Yes.
You're not alone. You know, you have others that have gone through what it is that you're
Yes.
facing, and we're out, and we can testify about this freedom and this liberty. And I cannot say, I cannot go on with first saying that I don't give credit to the doctors, I don't give credit to medication. I'm telling you, Facebook, women, whatever it is, whether there's a man watching dealing with anxiety, it was the word of God that really, really brought me out. And that's the only way that I was able to overcome, because what we face, panic attacks, schizophrenia, everything is in the mind. And that is where the enemy works. But the Bible tells us that God didn't give us that spirit of fear. He gave us a spirit of power, love, and soundness of mind. And I want you to know that you're sound in your mind and you're coming out. So continue to be hopeful.
Amen. Amen. I totally agree. Now, in keeping with that, right? It's so real. I love it. In keeping with that, I go into another real sister. Now, y'all know I can't have nobody on the show here who ain't real. Because that's my mantra. I feel like, yeah, I mean, you don't get anywhere by pretense. You don't get anywhere by
No,
covering
we won't
up.
help anybody.
You know, your secrets make you sick, you know. They kill you. So, I'm going to now go to Nora, right? Boy, there's so much to say about Nora and how she's helped me, but we're not going to talk about that today. I just want Nora now to give you a brief overview of her situation and what it was that she experienced briefly, and the fact that she's now out of it as well. So how did it start for you, and what was it called? And, you know, because there are different names.
Yes. Okay, I went through psychosis, and my psychosis was triggered anytime I had a child. That's so they call it postpartum psychosis. And that's where you see things that are not real, and you don't know how to deal with it. But it really started, you know, I will let you know, make sure you treat your children well. Trust me. Give them a stable home, first and foremost.
Amen.
My own started because my mom gave me up for adoption. And I went to live with someone that, you know, she did her best. I would say she did her best in trying to grow up a child. But it wasn't a very good environment. So, in that environment, I was molested. That environment,
Wow.
I was abused. That environment, I stayed on the streets of Nassau. And so, as a child, children don't keep bad thoughts about adults. You could beat a child and the child come right back to you.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter, they're still going to come back. But that child grows up. So when that child grows up now, they have to deal with that memory that they placed in the back of their head, and it's coming now to the forefront. So now you have a broken adult
Yes.
that's hidden in a child's mind, because your mind becomes as a child when you go through psychosis. And at one point, my mind went straight to 3 years old. And why my mind went to 3 years old? Because that was the only part of my life that I could think nothing went wrong. So I went straight to a 3-year-old. And at this time, I was married. Thank God for that. I was married to a very, you know, he was really understanding. So what happened is that I now began to deal with just dealing with life. So, you know, I feel the spirit of life coming upon me.
Go ahead,
Amen.
Johnny. Go ahead.
You know, God is good.
Yes,
you
He
know,
is.
God is really, really good.
Yes, He
I'm really
is.
trying to hold my words because you know,
Let him have his way.
the enemies that I had, you know, they don't have no power.
No.
So I grew up as well. I grew up in a society called the Lodge. And always remember, the things that they do in the dark is not of God. I gave my life to the Lord. I had a dream. I gave my life to the Lord. So now my soul was supposed to be bought. And some of you may go through this. And the thing with this is spiritual warfare, but it's still psychosis. Yeah. I will give it the medical name. It's called psychosis, but it's still spiritual warfare. Mm-hmm. So what I went through was spiritual warfare under the name postpartum psychosis. So those who understand, just remember, you need your medication. Some persons need their medications. I was on medication. I was on medication for many years. And the medication made me feel more zombified. I didn't have control over my body because I had to have the highest level of medication. So it was like I just was moving, just moving but not living. And I really wanted to live. Amen. Because I had small children and I dealt with them, but I didn't deal with them as someone who knew what they were doing. I was just going through the motion. What I want
to ask you now, what are some of the signs? Did you know prior to your break? Did you have anything that made you think that something was wrong?
Well, I didn't think something was wrong because I thought this was life. Yes.
Normal.
Life was normal. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You get your little stresses, you get whatever, and I just thought it was living. I thought you're supposed to go through this. But what really let others know that I was going through is that I had a dream that, I was going to die. I was going in a coffin. And I woke up and I said to my husband, I said, honey, one day you're going to come home and this house is going to be empty. You're not going to have me and you're not going to have the children. And I think at that point, that's when, I didn't realize it, but looking back, now I realize that something was going on because all my hormones was imbalanced. Everything was just out of whack. So what got them to know is that I woke up reading my Bible. I woke up one morning. So you have to have, when you're studying that Bible, make sure you have the Holy Spirit to guide you through that Bible. Because, the enemy is very deceitful because, Satan used the scriptures for Eve. He just put it in error. Right. So you have to make sure, ask the Holy Spirit to give you guidance when you're reading your word, when going through psychosis or any illness, that kind of way. And so make sure you do that. And I always, and I can just plug this in. Every Christian out there is insane. Everyone. I might as well tell you that. Mm-hmm. Don't think y'all head good. None of y'all head good because guess what? The Bible states that you will hear a voice behind you saying, go, this is the way, walk in it. Mm-hmm. So where's that voice coming from? Mm. That's a mental problem. Mm. So don't think that, I'm not going through. We all have that point where mental problems go. But I just got up one night and I heard the trumpet is sounding and I just jump up. No clothes on. I was going straight. My husband tried to force me. He got some clothes on me and I went straight in the middle of the road. Okay. Kneel down and that was it. They knew, something is wrong. Yeah. So make sure, don't allow your loved one to get to the state where I was. Yeah. Make sure, look. And then two, I realized that when you're going through, you get up, you don't comb your hair. You don't feel like, doing anything. No. So if you see someone just get up and they really don't care about combing their hair, they really don't care about going out the house, that's a telltale sign. Yes. Right. So you have to be looking at your loved ones and make sure they're not in the state of despair. Right. So make sure you trigger that. I don't want anyone to get to the point where I was, and And I was on Sandlands. I went to the point I was so bad. I went to
heard that.
Sandlands. So
Sandlands,
I went, yeah, I did. Thank you, Sandlands.
look
All
at
those
this
windows down there. Hi, Sandlands. You know,
And look at this woman today.
but
How long ago was this, Nora?
that was years ago. That was about,
20 plus years.
20,
About 20 years ago, she experienced
no,
this.
that's, yeah, about,
About
yeah, 19. Yeah,
About 19 years ago, she experienced this, and her children are now grown,
All my children are grown.
and she is living her best life.
Yes, I am.
I want you to know that.
I am.
And like she says, one of the things I wanted to say, when you speak to Nora's husband, who has the outside account of what
Yes,
occurred, he did say that it was, in some ways, a lack of not paying attention on his part. Because Nora, what she didn't say is, Nora has 5 children. She's a good breeder, y'all. 5 children. And she had 3 children in Pampers.
Oh, yes, I had 4 children in Pampers and 1 was out. Let's see.
Right, 1 was out. Now, that
Stress of life.
was right. She was way, way overloaded. And I know I have experienced postpartum depression myself, so it's a real thing. And he did say that he was not, he was not as vigilant as he could have been.
He was really
He was busy going out to work.
But he did the best that he could do.
Yes.
He did the best that he
But
could
there
do.
were some signs that he missed.
Yes, he did.
And when you have a woman that has 4 children in Pampers, even that in and of itself is a sign. But anyway, we're going to try and wrap up.
Yeah.
I knew that we were going to, we were trying to keep the show to 30 minutes. And I knew that we were going to go over because this is just so much information. But I just wanted you to see 2 other survivors, women that have gone through, women that are normal. Because when we think of mental unwellness, we put a face to it. We figure, is somebody walking the streets? Or, somebody walking and talking to themselves. We don't think of women like us, normal, quote, normal women that are out here living their lives, taking care of our kids, taking care of our families. So, for us, and I didn't get to respond to any of the, yes, I'm not seeing them.
I'm not seeing it. Okay.
Okay, Nora said she's been responding. Okay, wow, okay. All right, well, I'm glad that everybody's tuned in. I see Jacqueline, I see Bridget, I see Natalie, Katrina. We thank you all for joining us. We want you to, we want you to share this video because mental unwellness is so prevalent, but we're ashamed, and most of us suffer in silence. And that is what we're trying to eradicate, because the problem is with you suffering in silence, you can actually extend the duration of your mental condition, or you may actually live in that state chronically, which means you never get help. And because I am going through, like Nora said earlier, when you're going through, I think it's the most horrible thing anyone can experience in their life. I mean,
Yeah, awful.
it's just a horror show. And to think that because of pride or because you're afraid that society's going to call you crazy, you may not come forward, and you may sit home in silence and don't seek any type of help, be it through a friend, a family member, a spiritual leader, a therapist, a psychologist, psychiatrist, or whatever you do. All I'm going to tell you today is the first thing you need to do is get out and get help.
Amen.
However which way, whoever you need to speak to, someone that you trust, because your silence will kill you.
Yes, it
And
will.
if you see someone living and have the symptoms, make sure you get them help. Because
Right.
sometimes they're not going, they are at a state in their mind, they're
Yes.
not going to get
They're,
help.
they're not able to if they've gone to a certain point. There were points when I could, like I told you with the interview, I couldn't drive my car. I literally became debilitated, literally. And it was in those times that I did need my friends and my family around me.
The support.
The
is
support,
important.
is so
Yeah, you
important. Because when you're going through, when you're depressed, when you have anxiety, you don't feel like anything matters. You don't feel like life is worth
Hopeless.
living. You're hopeless. Oh man, you're hopeless. But you just have those around you to remind you it's gonna be okay. You are gonna get through it, but you have to be proactive.
As well as I remember, when I was going through, I was at the state in my mind at 7 years old. And for some reason, I came back to myself for like a minute. And I saw my husband in the corner like a fetus. He didn't know what to do.
Yes.
So when I looked at him, I said, honey, I said, when you have a flu, God gives Theraflu. He gives different medication on the over the counter, or he give you doctors to go to, you could do that. Honey, all you have to do is get me the help that I need.
And sometimes
that's there.
sometimes that's what we have to do, because what I'm finding, and this is one of the major reasons that we're doing this too, there's a lot of ignorance in our Bahamian society.
Yes,
and please, I love you all. I don't mean it in a bad or derogatory way, but there's a lot of ignorance. Really, for those of you who've not gone through this, you really don't know anything about it. You don't know. You don't know. And it's a very complex thing. And sometimes you say, oh, well, and I love the Lord. But sometimes you can't just tell somebody, well, you just need to go pray about that.
No.
That's just, it's not enough, because they are actually having a breakdown, and that is not sufficient. And sometimes we do that, we're very cavalier.
The body is physical and
The-
spiritual.
exactly. And sometimes, like Nora said, it depends on the severity. The person may need a doctor. They may need a therapist. They may need a psychologist. There are some people you may not need that. You may need your pastor. You may need a sister in the church who can guide you through the Bible, who can take you to scriptures that can get you through. But everyone is different, and you see the three of us, we have three different situations going on.
Yeah.
Panic attacks, anxiety, depression, psychosis. Just with the three of us, that's three very different conditions, and we have to deal. I think we've all dealt with it in many different ways.
Yes.
So you have to determine, first of all, do not be in denial, because you're hurting yourself by denying that you're going through, or denying that you're having some type of mental instability. And you're not the first, and you ain't going to be the last.
And keep in mind that you have the victory.
Yes.
That you in spite, when you think of the word courage, when we look in the Bible in Joshua
Right.
1:9, it says that he has commanded us to be strong and courageous.
Yes.
Courage is moving. What courage means is that you feel this fear. You know that something is going on up here. You know what you're feeling, but you know what you're doing in spite of it. You're still moving forward.
Right.
Chrishna still got up this morning in spite of all that she's going through. She put this together, and she has the courage to say, you know what? I am not going to allow this thing to overcome me or to beat me. I'm going to face this. I faced it, and I'm going to move regardless. And that's the courage that we're kind of encouraging you to have, to be courageous, that you feel this panic attack, you feel this fear, but you're still moving forward, you're still getting up, you're still going out, you're still being able to function even though you feel what you feel. And I promise you, we're going to hear the testimonies of your victory, because you do have the victory. Be encouraged. You're going to get through. You're an overcomer.
Simple words. You're going to get through this.
You're going to get through
I
it.
cannot tell you how many times.
Yes.
I cannot tell you how many times
get through this.
Nora has said that to me, because it's real, and
It
it's a
is.
battle.
It is.
And some days are really bad days. And you can't move out of that bed, or you can't move out of that chair. You just need a sister or someone to come by and say, you're going to get through this. And, you have to live in day compartments. There's so many aspects to how you overcome with this, that we have to discuss that at a later time.
Yes.
But today we just wanted you to be...
Introduction.
Yes. To introduce the show to you, Real Talk, and to just say to you that it is okay if you're going through.
Yes.
You're not insane.
No.
You're not crazy.
No. Just living.
You're
life,
not.
just,
Things are happening.
Exactly.
Whatever it may have been, be it a trauma. Sometimes we lose a loved one. Or for me, I got sick and it terrified me.
Yes.
And it sent me into a spiral. For others, Nora, you heard what she said, she was molested. We have children out there, we have teenage girls out there who would have been molested, and it messes your mind up, because it's not what is supposed to happen to a child.
No.
So, there are different reasons. Tally, she had a dad that was epileptic. Fear took root in her.
Yes.
And It had to be dealt with. But we're here to say it can be dealt with. All is not lost. It's not a hopeless
We have
situation.
one question is,
Oh, we do have a
we have a
question?
question from Mario. Is the show going to be weekly?
That is the plan. The show is going to be weekly. But I am going to say to you, as with everything, we need your support. We need you watching.
Share the video.
We need you sharing the video. We even need sponsorship because right now, everything that's being done, you know, this is just, we believe in this. And we believe in helping. And we believe that what we have gone through cannot go in vain. So we're doing all of this. I'm really not working. Tally isn't working.
I'm not
now.
looking.
We're working now. But I'm just
I'm
saying.
not looking for a 9-to-5 job.
No, we're
No, we're not looking, but I'm saying that, you know, we're doing this out of the love of our hearts for you, our fellow sisters and brothers. But we are going to need help as we continue to go along. So I just encourage you to, you know, God is good and you are going to get through this. So stay tuned next week, same time, same place, as we have real talk.
Love you guys.
Love you.